It is the end of the year, my friends, and so we're doing my top 5 of 2024 series. Instead of doing a whole video, I've decided to kind of split this in maybe like 3 or 4 different videos. So today we're going to talk about primers, foundation, concealer, powders, and setting spray. So I have all my favorite products right here. Some were easy to kind of pick and then some were quite difficult. Now I've decided to include just overall my most used products of 2024, not just releases of this year, but you will see that a lot of these are new products just because of the nature of my job. I do try a lot of new products and many become favorites and just products that I use every single day, but there's some old favorites as well. So without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with primers. I have a few that have been, I think, in my last year's favorites as well. But let's start with Tom Ford Traceless. I should know the name of this by now. Traceless Soft Matte Primer. This is a beautiful, more mattifying primer. It does help smooth out your pores. It makes my makeup last all day long, and I think this is the 3rd year in a row where it has become my favorite. I haven't found a dupe or something that I truly love as much. I do actually really enjoy this Hourglass primer. It's kind of halfway gone. This is the airbrush primer. I feel like I've rediscovered this in the last 4 months and it's beautiful, but I still like the Tom Ford better. So this has to stay my number 1. Actually, I am not ranking these just because they do different things. So GloWish by Huda Beauty, the Blur Jam. I feel like this used to be everybody's favorite when it came out, but it has stuck with me. I am halfway down and I don't use a lot. I use a very little product. And again, like the Tom Ford, I put it around my pores, my T-zone. And these two have helped me a lot during summertime when I got quite oily and I struggled honestly really bad with oiliness in my T-zone because I naturally have more normal to dry skin. So suddenly having oily skin, I just didn't know what to do with myself. So these two primers have really helped keep my pore area just a little bit more mattified, more smooth, and they are still my favorites. I think the Blur one was also in last year's favorites. On the opposite side of the spectrum, we have the Dior Forever Glow Star Filter. This is similar to the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless filter, but I enjoy this one better. It is a little bit smoother. It's not quite as maybe glittery. It's beautiful on the skin. Honestly, I was able to wear this one almost like primer foundation with concealer on top. It looks beautiful on its own, and I just love this product so much. I have it under my foundation right now, and I think it is fantastic. Again, I like it on its own with concealer and powder, or I like it under foundation. You can also put it on top of foundation for a little glow. Similar to that, we have the Charlotte Tilbury Stick Unreal Skin Sheer Glow Tint Hydrating Foundation Stick. Wow, that is such a long name. I use this one more as a primer, kind of like a glowy primer. It does feel nice and moisturizing, and the glow is beautiful. Look at that. I personally don't wear this on its own. I think it's too glowy for me. Even with powder, I don't enjoy it, but I do like it under foundation, even on top of foundation. It doesn't emphasize your pores, which is probably my main concern to my skin. It feels nice and hydrating. It gives a beautiful glow without looking sparkly or anything like that. I actually know a lot of people that use this as their foundation and they put concealer. I wasn't able to pull that off. I don't know if because my skin was so oily during the summer, and honestly I haven't tried it that way now that it's dry again. Maybe I will, but I personally love this as a primer. The last one is a setting spray and a primer in one. This is the Dalba First Spray Serum. I adore this product. It is nice, refreshing, moisturizing serum that I put under my makeup. I put over my makeup. It gives a beautiful glow, hydration. I think this product is amazing. It is from Amazon and it's just more affordable than some other kind of glowy, serum-y sprays that I have. And I use this again as a primer and just a finishing glowy spray, but I decided to put it in the primer section because I think it is meant to give you the hydration that preps the skin for makeup. So it is fabulous. Moving on to setting sprays, I only have 3 here. I just don't have 5 favorites. So we're going to start with Hourglass Veil Setting Spray. This is a very interesting spray because it definitely gives a lot of hydration and it melts the product in. Also sets, but if you overspray, you can look oily. So with this one, I'm careful. I do like 1, 2, maybe 3 if I have lots of powder. But the way this melts your makeup into each other, it makes it so smooth, almost like a filter on top of your face. It's incredible. But again, you have to use very little product. If you overuse, I personally have found that it just makes you look oily. Also, I have one issue with this. The mister overall is perfect. It's so smooth and you almost feel a slight breeze of this product on your skin. But the first spray, it just shoots the product out. It drives me insane. So I feel like I always have to first spray it out and then go and spray it on my face. And it's beautiful after that, but I feel like I'm wasting product because of that. The second one is this TirTir Mask Fit Makeup Fixer. This is beautiful. It makes my makeup last all day long. It is intense without being too drying. And yeah, I've been reaching for this all the time. It is beautiful. And the last one is this one. It is the One Size Until Dawn. This is hairspray for your face. This will keep your makeup on all day. I don't use it every day because it's quite intense, but if I have a long day and I need my makeup to just stay in there, this is perfect. This is what I go for. I tend to combine these two, the Dalba spray, because this gives hydration and this just locks everything in, and it is beautiful. So those are the 3 setting sprays that I just adore this year. Moving on to foundations, and I definitely struggle to keep it to 5 here. Maybe I'll give some honorable mentions, but we're going to start with the obvious. Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint. This is my favorite skin tint in my entire collection. I think it came out this year and it's beautiful. It makes me feel like my skin is perfected without wearing anything. It feels like I'm putting a skincare product that has some tint to it, but it definitely evens out the skin. It also makes your skin look more blurred and perfected, yet it doesn't give you full coverage whatsoever. It's a light coverage. You can build it up to a light and medium. But because it sits so well on the skin, I don't feel the need for that extra coverage. So if you're looking for a lighter skin tint for every day, this is beautiful. It's also not super glowy. It has more of that natural finish, which I really enjoy because a lot of skin tints end up looking very oily and just too much for my skin. I want to look like I have absolutely nothing on, yet my skin looks beautiful, and this is exactly what this gives me. It is a beautiful natural finish, light to medium coverage, and it's beautiful. Definitely, this was one of those that I just picked up without a doubt. This is a favorite this year. Another product that is pretty much a no-brainer that I have fallen in love the second I tried it is this Huda Beauty Easy Blur. Now, this is such a beautiful medium coverage. I use my fingers to blend it. I love the blurriness of this product. Actually, remember using my Tom Ford primer, which is quite blurring on the skin, with this foundation on one side just to test it out, and I couldn't tell a difference, which is quite shocking because this definitely gives a lot of blur, but this naturally has so much blur and perfection in it that it didn't need a primer. I think this is a beautiful release from Huda Beauty, and it was quite a surprise just because I feel like when it comes to skin products, Huda Beauty is not necessarily my type of makeup. They're just heavier, fuller coverage, but this was a smash hit for me. I think it is perfection. I love the applicator. That's a like squeeze tube. I also really like the color that I got. I have 240N. I also have 220N, so I can mix and match when I'm lighter, but overall 240 has been the one that I've used. I feel like it's moisturizing without being too oily or greasy or too glowy. It's it's beautiful. I love it, and I like the packaging. It's easy to travel with. It doesn't break. The next foundation is one that I don't think I've used a ton on my channel. It's just because it's fuller coverage and just almost like a special occasion foundation, but I just had to place it in my top 5 because it is gorgeous. This is the Tom Ford Architecture's Soft Matte Foundation. This foundation is one of my most long-lasting foundation in my entire collection. There's something about it that makes it stick to my face. If I rub my face, it won't come off. If I sweat, it won't come off. Even though sometimes I feel like it could get a little glowier, mostly in the summertime, I felt like I could see some of my oils come through. It would not separate. It would still stay there. If anything, I would have to kind of powder my T-zone, and that's only when I was extremely oily in summertime. Now, I have no issues with that. Besides the fact that it lasts all day long, the way it applies, the finish, it's this soft matte finish, but it's not drying, it's not powdery. It is gorgeous. It has a very thin consistency, and I don't always love fuller coverage foundations that have that consistency because on me, it can kind of separate and break apart. Not this. This is beautiful. The one claim that I think it has is that it's extremely blurring, and I don't find that with this foundation. I feel like I need powder around my pore areas. Does it emphasize my pores? No, but it is not as blurring as the Huda Beauty. Either way, I always use powder around my pores, so that doesn't affect me, but I just wanted to mention that. Also, the packaging is beautiful. Is it expensive? Absolutely. It's very expensive. I have mine in the shade 4 Fawn. The next foundation is this Peau Radiant Cream Foundation. Now, I've had this since it first came out, or they reformulated, and I didn't love it. I think I did a full day wear test on it. I don't think I had my right shade, and it just didn't look that great on my skin. I felt like it was too heavy, but I have learned to love this, and this past year I have reached for it so much, mainly in my day-to-day life. It is a beautiful medium full coverage foundation. I can sheer it out to that medium look, and that's kind of how I wear it, but I was surprised because in this packaging I was expecting this to be just, I don't know, like a skin tint, but no, this is a full-on foundation. That radiance finish is not too intense to where you look oily, but it gives that healthy radiance look. Even though it has fuller coverage on the skin, it feels like nothing. It feels so healthy, just like your skin can breathe. It's very expensive, but I can't deny it. It's one of my most used foundations this year. And this is another one that I don't feel like I have shared it in my videos that much because I've tried just so many new products, but this is one that I keep in my makeup bag. Now I have 2 foundations left here, and I have such a hard time picking one, so I'm just going to share them both. Let's start with one that I think it was in last year's favorites, and that is the Prada foundation. This little guy has been so loved by me, and even though I've tried so many new foundations this year, this has still remained one of my favorite ones. This has pretty much everything that I like in a foundation. The coverage is kind of all across. If you put it initially, it's a good medium coverage, but I can sheer it out a little bit and I can get that light medium coverage, or I can build it up and get a medium to full, which is what I like in a foundation. I like when they're malleable. I can play with them. I also like the texture of it. It's not too thick. It's thin but not super runny, and I also love the finish. The finish is a natural finish. It's not matte, it's not glowy, it just takes pretty much the finish of your natural skin, and I love that. It also lasts so well, so I just had to include this one because I have been using it a lot, even though, you know, I've been playing with so many other products, but this still has remained in my favorite foundations this whole year, and I think last year. By the way, the color that I have is MN40, and this is refillable, which is great because it's pricey. Now this last one is definitely a bonus. It's not a recommendation. It's just a product that I have discovered this year and have loved. But again, I am not recommending this. because it is sickeningly expensive. This is the La Prairie foundation. This is the Skin Caviar concealer and foundation. Now, it has a concealer right here at the top, and I actually use it. I use it for pinpointing. For example, today I had a really big, nice zit here, and I just took a little bit of this and dabbed it there and maybe around my cheeks before I put foundation on. So I don't use this under my eyes. I don't like it under my eyes. It's just too thick. But I love it for just across the face. And now the foundation inside, it is beautiful. You cannot deny it. I know it's expensive. I cannot remember exactly how much I paid for it. I think I'm trying to block it out of my mind, but it's in the hundreds, okay? Hundreds, yes, with the S. This has the most beautiful radiant finish, full coverage. Again, you can kind of shear it out to a medium. It feels like skincare. It has this kind of gelish whipped formula to it, similar-ish to the Chantecaille, but this is even better. And I love the coverage, the finish, the way it sits on the skin. It is so perfecting and beautiful without looking fake and heavy. I do hate the applicator. It's comes like this, and I just feel like it's not very sanitary, but because of the texture of this, I don't think you could just pump it, but you could take it on your hand. I just put it straight on my face just because I don't care. But yeah, the application is not my favorite, but I will put up with it because I love it, this product so much. So that is a special mention. Moving on to concealers. I have 5 favorite concealers, and I also have 2 correctors that I want to mention. One is no surprise, it's the Charlotte Tilbury corrector. I have Hit Pan, and I use very little of this. This has lasted me, I want to say more than a year. I just take a little bit and I only apply it where it's the darkest, and that's it. So this is beautiful. I have no complaints. It's gorgeous. Now the other one that is a concealer / corrector, so I'm just going to put it in the corrector due to the shade that I picked, is the Sisley corrector in shade 2. This does have this beautiful peach color to it. So that's why I'm using it here. But to be honest, it's so beautiful that I can wear this on its own, and I actually do. Many times when I have minimal makeup on or absolutely no makeup on, I will just put this under my eyes, and it is very hydrating, beautiful, and it corrects while also you're able to just use it as a concealer, specifically the shade 2. I love it. It's beautiful. It is so forgiving under the eyes, so healthy and hydrating without it slipping and sliding or getting into your fine lines. It's a very pricey thing, but it is worth it. I think it is worth it. You get a ton of product, and this has lasted me so long, and I feel like I didn't even make a dent in it. Looking at these concealers down here is quite shocking because most of them are on the fuller coverage, and I feel like my entire life I was all about like light, medium coverage. But this year I feel like maybe I was very tired this year that I felt like I needed more coverage, but all of these look beautiful under the eyes and just look like light coverage, but with a pigment. That made absolutely no sense. Starting off with the lightest coverage of them, this is the Tower 28 concealer, and I would say that this is a medium coverage. It's supposed to be a serum concealer from what I remember, but it's creamy to me. It's light but creamy at the same time. It's not super thin and serum-y. It's so gorgeous. It does give you this kind of slight radiance to your under eye, but it just melts into the skin. It's beautiful. I think most of you guys have tried it, and a lot of you guys like it. So this is definitely a favorite. I have it in 3 different shades: K-Town, IE, and DTLA. I think pretty much half of the year, this was the concealer I wore. The next one is a newer one. This is a Westman Atelier, and I've talked about this so much in the past couple of months since I've discovered that. I'm not gonna stay here long, but I love it. It's fuller coverage, it's thicker, which I thought surely I'm not gonna like it, but somehow it's hydrating enough. It's natural, slight glowy under the eyes, but not too much to where it attracts attention there. It just smooths under the eyes. It looks blurring, flawless, definitely fuller coverage, and I think it's beautiful. I don't necessarily need to set this one, but most of the time as I do, I just enjoy the powder, the smoothness of a powder, but it's a beautiful concealer and I got a lot of use out of it. Next one is another one that I don't think comes as a surprise, is this Hourglass concealer. I feel like this is the year where I've learned to love this concealer. I have tried it when it first came out, absolutely hated it, and again this year I just fell in love with it. I think I found my perfect color. This is the apricot shade and I put very little of this. I just like whoop, and that's about it. More than that, I feel like it can get a little heavy. I think I got it in my hair. But yeah, more than that, it can get a little heavier and just too much under the eyes, but just a little bit goes a very long way, and that's just how you have to do it. Sometimes I don't even powder this concealer because it does set down, and powdering too heavy with this concealer, I think it can look a little heavy under the eyes, but when I don't know what to use or whenever I'm in a hurry, I just reach for this because I know it'll stay all day. I know it blends in and it looks beautiful. So this is definitely a favorite this year. One that I'm kind of surprised to see here is the Natasha Denona concealer. It's not that I didn't like it when I tried it. It's just because it's fuller coverage. I just love this one so much. And this is another one that the more I wore it, the more I liked it. I think this is the shade P3. Now I have to say that the shade selection throws me off. I feel like I could find a better shade match for me. I just haven't been able to. And I swatched so many shades. So if you are around my skin tone and you have a good shade, let me know. This works. This works. But yeah, this is much thinner than pretty much all the other concealers, yet it has full coverage. And it's beautiful. It lasts all day. I really do enjoy it for those just fuller kind of coverage days. And if I need something to last all day long. And then the last one is one that was my favorite last year. It is the Chanel concealer, the Sublimage concealer. And I have used this so much, even though I haven't used it on camera. This is another one of those daily concealers. I love the coverage. I love the color. This is the shade 30. It has that peachy tone to it. And when I tell you I use the tiniest bit, I mean, I take my foundation and I take it off the cap, boop, and that's all. That's all I use on both eyes. And I love it. I feel like I can have full coverage with it, more medium coverage if I want to. It is kind of luminous under the eyes. This is perfect if you have more mature eyes or really dark circles under eye circles, because the colors are all a little bit peachy, so it really cancels those purples in your eyes. Still, I think my #1 concealer in my collection. It has not changed. It's still this one, and it's pricey. It's a pricey little thing. Last section is powders, and wow, this year has been just such a hit to the makeup community since our beloved Givenchy has been discontinued and tragically reformulated into this glitter bomb all in your face. So I do not like that one. That one right now, I feel like it would be good for as a finishing powder. Kind of reminds me of the Hourglass ambient lighting powders. But we want smoothness. We want just a blurriness under the eyes, and that's just not what they're giving us. So I have done a lot of searching and tried so many powders this year to replace that. And I have to say that I feel very happy with where I am with my powder selection. I think last year I had a few of these. I definitely had the Huda one last year that I don't think I had it this year. However, I still love that powder. I still use it all the time, but it just hasn't made it in my top 5 this year. Let's start with the most expensive one, just kind of get it out of the way. This is the La Prairie powder. The reason I'm showing you both, it's because this is what you get. Okay, you get a ton of product. You get a mini one and a big one. There's a ton of product. It's extremely expensive, and I refused to buy it for many, many months. But I just wanted to try it. I heard a lot of people loving it, and I have to say that I have learned to love this powder so much. I did a video where I compared this one, which is is going to be my favorites. But the Chanel loose powder next to the La Prairie. And I did that more in the summertime. And I think the Chanel won. I just felt like Chanel was a little bit more heavy duty, more blurring. It lasted longer. But now that I have more normal to dry skin, this takes it. It is so finely milled. It is blurring without being too much. It almost looks like you don't have powder, but you look very blurred. It's a beautiful powder. Like, truly, I just have to say that it performs incredible, but it's so expensive. There's other ones that I'll show you that are beautiful, but this has to be in my top 5 this year because I do use it so much. I took the little one in Romania with me when I traveled, and this big one stays here. You get so much product. You get 40 grams in here and then another 10 grams in the little one. So you're getting both of these for, I don't know, 250, I think. I'm embarrassed to say that out loud. Moving on to the next favorite. This is the Chanel Natural Finish Loose Powder. I feel like this has been a favorite, a staple for years for me. I love it. It's very perfecting, very blurring. If I have oilier skin, this will last all day long on me. It is blurring. It's probably my most blurring powder that I have in my collection. And I don't think it's quite as heavy duty as the Huda one, but this is as heavy duty as I would like for daily use. I think if I could only pick one powder in my collection, just to have one powder, it would have to be this one because I think it does it all. It's beautiful. You get a ton of product. In this, you get 30 grams of product. And I think it's perfection. If you have not tried this one, try it out. Even when I had oilier skin, I liked it. Even now, I love it. I just use a little bit less than I use the La Prairie, for example. But yeah, if I could only pick one powder, I feel like this does it all for me. The next one and the last loose powder is the Makeup by Mario. This is a new release, and it came right when Givenchy discontinued their powder, or reformulated, I'm sorry. But it is a great option if you don't want to spend the money for the Chanel or obviously the La Prairie. This is blurring, smooth. It lasts a long time. It's fabulous. I think Makeup by Mario did a great job. I have the lightest one, which supposedly has some pink in it, but it's a very light pink. And yeah, I actually remember going to Romania and I was gone for a month and I missed this powder. I hadn't brought my Chanel, it was just too big, but I do remember missing the powder. I'm like, oh, I wish I had it with me. It's beautiful, it's smoothing, it's not too heavy, it's definitely not drying, and it comes in different shades, so made it in my top 5. I have 2 setting powders left and an honorable mention, but let's start with this beautiful YSL powder. This, I think, came out this year, if I'm not mistaken. First of all, let's take a moment for the packaging. All YSL powders are gorgeous. They're just, the packaging just sells you, and it feels, you know, leathery here. It's not feeling cheap. It feels very luxurious. And then I have the translucent, the lightest one. If I tilt it down, you can see there's a YSL imprint right there, and I've used this a lot, so that definitely lasts a while. Now, I love this powder so much because it is one of the most undetectable powders that I have in my collection. So if I want, for example, right now, I feel like my forehead could be a little bit toned down. I take a little bit of this, and this just smooths out the shine, but it still gives this natural finish to your skin. It doesn't look matte and dry whatsoever. It is one of the softest powders that I have in my collection and the most undetectable on the skin. This is one that if I set my under eyes, I feel like I need a powder that's just a little heavier than this. But if I just need to touch up, for example, right here, I feel like that did such an incredible job. It doesn't pick up a lot either, so you can really go in there, and it's never too heavy. I can pile this on. It's never heavy. Yeah, look at that. I just feel like that fixed my makeup. The next powder is the Tower 28 Press Powder. I hate the packaging. I really do. I feel like it's cheap. It has no mirror. It feels like kids' makeup, to be honest. So I really don't like that. I feel like they should have done better with this. Maybe give us a mirror or just make the packaging a little bit more special. So yeah, I really hate the packaging, but I've been using the powder a lot. It is heavier duty than the YSL, so I feel like I really like this one in the summertime when I was a little bit oilier. And again, more of a touch-up powder than a setting powder. I like to set with my loose powders. It's just what I like. So all these pressed powders I usually use kind of on the forehead and just kind of to touch up throughout the day or at the end of my makeup. If I feel like I want to look a little bit more blurred and a little bit more powdered, I go with a powder like this, but it is more intense than the YSL. It's a little creamier, but it really does help so much. Mostly, like I mentioned, in the summertime when I was a little bit oilier, I really loved this powder. And I think it's beautiful, not super expensive, nor should it be, since the packaging is not the best. And then the honorable mention that would have taken over the Tower 28 one, but I just discovered this, I don't know, in the past 3 weeks, I want to say, is the Jouer powder. So this would have and should be in my top 5. I just kind of feel like I didn't use it enough for it to justify being here. But guys, this powder is gorgeous. I hear nobody talk about it. It is one of the prettiest powders that I have in my collection. It reminds me a little bit of the Hourglass powders, but not as glowy. And so this looks like a filter on your face. This is another one that I personally use as a finishing powder. I did try it under the eyes and it looked well. I personally just need a little bit more of a matte finish under the eyes, but the powder is gorgeous. It needs to be popular because it is so beautiful, so blurring, so smooth. And I think even if you have oilier skin, you would enjoy it. If you have dry skin, I think you would really enjoy it. Just go with a lighter hand. But again, not necessarily to set your concealer, but just to kind of put it all over your face, more as a finishing powder. Also, the packaging is absolutely beautiful. Compare this with Tower 28. No, like this feels luxurious. It looks luxurious. It reminds me of a Sisley product. Those are my favorite 2024 complexion products. There's blushes, bronzers, highlighters coming next, and a couple other series. I'm thinking of doing just a random 2024 favorites like fairy jeans and perfumes and things like that. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I can add another video to this series. But like always, I want to know your favorite products. Leave me a couple down below because I'm just so curious. And I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.